You're strong inside the gym. Put you on a bike? Gassed. 3 rounds of shadow boxing? Done. 200 meters in a pool? Grabbing the wall. 5 sports. Each one builds something that gym never could. Running rebuilds what heavy lifting breaks. Boxing builds force the way the body actually uses it. Swimming puts your muscle in an environment it's never faced. Rowing pulls the whole chain. Nothing in the gym comes close. And cycling? That's the one that makes everything else work better. Sport 5. Running. Rebuild what heavy lifting breaks. The man who avoids running because he doesn't want to lose muscle is making a reasonable calculation based on the wrong data. Yes, high-volume running in a caloric deficit over long distances sustained for months competes with muscle mass. That's documented. That's also not what's being suggested here. 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times per week. That's not a threat to muscle. That's a stimulus the gym was never designed to deliver. Here's what running produces that no exercise inside 4 walls replicates. The posterior chain, glutes, hamstrings, calves, working in dynamic propulsion under real impact, not controlled, not on a fixed path, on ground that varies, that pushes back, that demands constant stabilization from structures that sit dormant on every machine in the gym. The leg press loads the quadriceps in a straight line. Running loads the entire lower body in a pattern closer to how that body was actually built to move. For men over 40, 2 adaptations make running non-optional if longevity is the goal. First, bone density. The skeleton responds to impact, specifically to the mechanical loading that ground contact creates. Low-impact exercise preserves what's there. Running builds. After 40, when bone density begins its natural decline, that distinction is the difference between maintaining the structure and reinforcing it. Second, dynamic stabilization. Every step on uneven ground activates the ankle and knee stabilizers that every machine in the gym bypasses completely. The man with strong quads and weak stabilizers is one misstep away from an injury that the gym never prepared him for, because the gym never asked those structures to work. The next sport doesn't ask you to run anywhere. It asks you to hit something, and what it builds in the process is the one kind of strength the gym fragments into pieces and never puts back together. Sport 4. Boxing. Force built from the ground up. A punch doesn't start in the shoulder. Most men think it does. That's why they bench press and call it upper body power. That's why their punch has no weight behind it the first time they actually throw one, and why 3 rounds of shadow boxing leaves them more winded than a full leg session ever did. A punch starts at the ankle, drives through the knee, rotates at the hip, transfers through the core, and arrives at the fist as the terminal expression of a chain that began at the floor. That sequential transfer of force through the entire kinetic chain is what the gym spends years fragmenting into isolated exercises and never reassembles. Chest day, shoulder day, core work on Fridays. Each structure trained in its own silo, disconnected from the ones above and below it. The result is a man who is strong in parts and weak in the integration between them. Boxing trains the integration directly. Every combination, jab, cross, hook, demands that the force produced at the base travels cleanly through every joint in sequence without leaking. Any weakness in the chain shows immediately: the punch that loses power at the hip, the cross that loads the shoulder instead of rotating through it, the hook that pulls instead of snaps. The sport provides instant feedback that no machine ever does, because machines remove the chain entirely and load the endpoint directly. The next sport removes gravity from the equation entirely, and what the muscle discovers in that environment, for the first time in most cases, is something land-based training never revealed. Want a strong and healthy body? Hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, click the subscribe button. Sport 3. Swimming. The environment your muscle never trained in. Every sport on this list operates under gravity. Swimming doesn't. The primary resistance in water isn't downward, it's uniform. Every degree of every movement meets resistance simultaneously through the full range without the peak and valley force curve that characterizes every lift in the gym. The muscle works differently because the environment works differently. That's not a minor variation, it's a completely separate adaptation. For men over 40 with joint history, shoulder, knee, lumbar, swimming delivers real muscular work at near zero axial load. The dorsals, shoulders, and core that take a beating under the bar build strength in water without the structural cost of the gym session that produced it. But the effect most men don't anticipate is respiratory. Swimming constrains breathing to the movement pattern. You can't breathe when you want to. You breathe when the stroke allows. That constraint, sustained over laps, develops ventilatory capacity that no other sport on this list touches. More oxygen per breath, more endurance in the final sets of any heavy session, less perceived effort at the same output. The muscle that never swam doesn't know what it's missing. It will the first time it hits the water. The next sport loads the entire body in one movement and does more in 10 minutes than most cardio equipment delivers in 30. Sport 2, rowing. The full body pull no machine replicates. On water, every stroke recruits 86% of total muscle mass in sequence. Legs initiate the drive, core transfers the force, back and arms complete the pull. That chain, posterior, total, continuous, is what the deadlift approximates in one static repetition. Rowing executes it in rhythm for 20, 30, 40 minutes. No machine in the gym comes close to that demand profile. The cardiovascular effect is distinct for one reason. Rowing loads upper and lower body simultaneously. Running and cycling are predominantly lower body. Rowing forces the heart to supply oxygen to the entire musculature under sustained effort, cardiac output levels that single-limb endurance sports don't reach. And on open water, there's one variable no ergometer introduces: the boat moves. Every compensation, every imbalance reads immediately. The stabilizers that sit dormant on every cable machine work every stroke because the alternative is ending up in the water. The last sport doesn't require a machine, a pool, or a ring, just a road. And it delivers the one adaptation that makes everything else on this list and everything in the gym work better for longer. Sport 1, cycling, the engine that makes everything else work. Cycling leads this list not because it's the most impressive sport on it, because it's the most strategically valuable one for men over 40 who train with weights, and the one most consistently dismissed as something people do when they can't do anything harder. That dismissal is the problem. Here's the specific mechanism. Zone 2 cycling, the intensity where conversation is possible but not comfortable, sustained for 40 to 60 minutes, is the most effective documented stimulus for mitochondrial development in middle-aged men. Mitochondria are the energy-producing structures inside the muscle fiber. More mitochondria per fiber means more ATP available per unit of effort, more resistance to fatigue across a session, and faster recovery between sets and between training days. The gym builds the muscle. The Zone 2 cycling builds the engine inside it. The man who adds 2 Zone 2 rides per week doesn't just get fitter on the bike, his squat endurance improves. His deadlift doesn't drop off as sharply in the final sets. His recovery between sessions shortens. The adaptation transfers because the mitochondria being developed are in the same muscle fibers being loaded under the bar. 2 rides per week, 45 minutes, moderate resistance. Enough to breathe hard, but not enough to need recovery from it. That's the addition most gym-only men are missing, and the one that determines whether the strength built in the next 5 years compounds or slowly stalls into the same plateau that got blamed on age. The gym built the engine. Cycling keeps it running.
What did you think of this video? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. I actually read everything. Hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, click the subscribe button.